Morning, and welcome to the home of Leandro and Emma Pastorelli at 6739 Navajo in Lincolnwood, Illinois. It's been their home for the past 45 years. Well, let's go over now and meet Andy. Well, hi, Uncle Andy. Good to be with you.
How you doing, dear?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, beautiful day today.
Oh, it's marvelous, but it's going to hit 100, they say.
What do you want to do? Take my picture?
Well, you're already
boy,
on the scene.
That's really something.
You know, I hope you don't mind that I call you Uncle Andy.
You are my niece.
Well, I feel
you
like
were born.
Since I was a little girl, I always
I
said,
held you in my arms. You want to try again?
Uncle Andy?
You want to try again? In my arms?
Well, when I put the camera down, I will.
Try again.
You know, your dear wife, Emma, came down from Ironwood, Michigan with my mom, Helen when they were in their late teens, and got jobs at Evanston, Illinois. And then she met you, and Mother met my father, Jesse Clyde Trawick, and the four of you double dated and remained friends.
You don't know the half of it. I'm not going to tell you that.
Well, I do know a certain story that I can't put on film.
And I'm not going to tell you.
Well, I hope you don't. Well, Andy, it's so good to be with you. You look marvelous, and I'm wondering, before we go in...
What do you expect, 88 years of age?
I think you are a marvelous role model for all of us.
I'm an old cocker.
Well, great. Well, Uncle Andy, before we go inside, would you like to show us your marvelous garden? Would you like to show us your garden?
Yeah, come on.
Okay,
Come on.
I'll follow you around.
Come on, baby.
Okay, we're standing out in the backyard, and we're going to sit down and have a nice chat with Uncle Andy. And so I'm going to go over and sit down right now and hear some marvelous stories, because you know Uncle Andy is noted for many, many talents, one of which are his fabulous stories.
But you know what? I sit down now.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you a little story of our 60th anniversary of a business that I created 60 years ago. And I'm going to tell you some of the details, how all this happened and what transpired in the few years that I have jotted down here.
Wonderful.
Hope you're not bored.
No. Now, Uncle Andy, why don't you sit down in the chair, and then I'll bring the camera in close, because we don't want to miss a word of this fabulous story, because the family is eager to hear this.
Okay.
So I want to make very sure that we're going to come in a bit. A little closer. Okay. Now I'm going to come over. Now, I'm going to have to move the chair over a little closer so that, and Uncle Andy, I want you to come a little closer to me, because I want to make sure that we're centered.
No.
This is okay?
Yeah,
I'm going to have to lean in a little.
Lean in.
As you can see, I'm not prepared to be filmed today, but Uncle Andy, here is a special little something from Arlene and Tom to you, and I think it'll be meaningful to you.
Wow. What is it?
Maybe I can step back and zoom in real close on that.
Oh, boy.
You could hold it up.
Yeah,
How's that?
I can hold it up.
You can hold it up.
Wow, look what I got. Cornelia, come here, see what I got. Look at
Uncle Andy, hold that up, and I'll come in as close as I can.
Look at that.
Oh, that is a beautiful family picture. What a treasure. Oh, great.
See?
Yes, the head of the herd, as they say. Well, I'm coming back out.
This is the same little guy that I carried in my arms, my little godson, Tommy, that I carried in my arms when he was born. He was 6 months old. When did you baptize him?
Oh, he was probably baptized, Andy, at about 3 weeks, probably.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow.
I would say. Okay, well, now I'm anxious for the story, and...
Let me put this down here.
Okay.
Okay. Now, see what it says on here? Pastorelli Food Products, 60th anniversary, 1931 and 1991. Over 60 years in business. That's me.
And you're going to put that hat on for me later, aren't you?
Now I just spoiled my nose.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. Because I want to film you later with that.
Hey, you're funny. Anyway, 60 years ago, Can you hear this
Yeah.
thing?
Okay,
That's
fine.
important. I started in May 1931. I was 28 years old, believe it or not. I had a lot of guts, and that's all. Nothing else. No money, just a lot of
And I want you to talk real loud. Keep going. A lot of guts and no money. Well, that's the case of many of us. But keep going, Uncle Andy. I want to get up close because I want to hear you. You're on now.
All right.
Whoops.
In 1931, the large chain stores of national origin were expanding in Chicago, and our little independent grocers were having it real rough.
Talk louder, dear.
I was having problems with my retail grocers because they couldn't pay their bills, and their big excuse was the chain stores are knocking the hell out of it. The chain stores are competing badly. They're selling loss leaders items without a profit, and we just can't do that. So it took a number of discussions and many meetings, and finally we decided that the only way to compete with the multiple unit national organizations was to try to be as close to their type of distribution as possible. So we had several meetings, we had many discussions, and finally they decided, and I agreed, that the only way to combat that was to become a co-op, which would buy in large quantities and distribute merchandise on a low basis, and compete on a direct basis with the A&P and National Tea and Kroger and all other national organizations, which were becoming stronger and stronger every year. So we finalized the deal, and I had enough experience that I felt that I could do them some justice, and they elected me a leader for this organization. I had just come back from California, where I had done where I had created a new organization in making the first olive oil that was made in the United States, was made with the help of my father's resources and ability and my own guts. And I put together a beautiful plant that we made the first olive oil that was ever made in California.
Wonderful.
And my father was starting the Contadina Canning Company in San Jose, which was 210 miles away from where I was putting up the olive oil plant. So in all those years, in 2 years, I put the whole thing together, and in 2 years, my father put the Contadina together. So we came back east. And when we came back east, the reason was that my father had purchased a company by the name of the Garibaldi Importing Company, which dealt...
Say that again. Did the WIC company louder?
Garibaldi.
Garibaldi. Wonderful.
Yeah, a Genoese company from northern Italy.
Great.
And they were doing local business here on a haphazard way, and they weren't doing too well. So they sold out. And my dad and another partner bought the operation. So he called me back to take charge, which I did. And in so doing, I got a lot of experience, and I made a lot of friends. And back in Chicago, after 2 years of excitement in California, we came back to Chicago. Now, during that time, I had gained enough knowledge and enough experience about the food products, but not about the distribution. So I had to learn the distribution system, which took me about a year or better. And when I started the new company, which was known then as the Continental Food Stores, it was an innovation. It was the second co-op in the United States of independent retail grocers that came under one head, under one rule, bought merchandise together, advertised together, and tried to do more or less what the chain stores were doing. So I struggled and put that thing together, and it was real rough going. For a while, we were real rough. Anyway, when I opened the new, what we called then the Continental Food Stores, I had 200 retailers put together, $200 a piece, and I offered them stock in a new corporation which meant that they would have to invest a minimum of $200. And we put in the rest. My father put in 10, I put in 5, and we started doing business. Now, we had great hopes, and we felt that we opened our doors with a bang. We had a big party and music and ribbons.
What year might this have been?
1931.
Oh, 2 years after I was born. Great.
That was a tough time, very tough time. But
Depression?
anyway,
Was that
we
the Depression?
We progressed for a while, and we did all right. And then what happened? Bango, the stock market went to hell. And when the stock market went, commodity prices went, everything went to devil. People were jumping out of windows. They couldn't meet their investment. They couldn't meet their promises.
Terrible.
And companies fell. They couldn't carry on, so they closed up. But the old Continental food stores, with young Pastorelli at the helm, didn't want to quit.
Great. I like your spirit, Uncle Andy.
Huh?
I like your spirit.
The spirit. Well, that's what it
And
was.
you haven't lost a touch.
I didn't have much money, but I had a hell of a lot of guts. And what I mean is, how do you spell guts? G-U-T-Z or G-T-U-S. I had them.
Okay.
I had them. Okay, well, I carried on. So, we caught our breath until during that time here, the people were really in bad shape, and investments went to hell. And during that time, I felt, well, something going to happen for the better, but it didn't happen for the better. It happened for the worst. Roosevelt was elected. My father was at the Chicago Stadium when they had the big rally over here, and we always voted Republican. Until that day, my father came back to the office and he said, you know, son, we have to work for this new man. His name is Roosevelt. He's going to be all right. He's going to save this country. So we all voted for Roosevelt. Boy, what a mistake that was. As soon as Mr. Roosevelt was in, assured of his position, what does he do the first week that he was in power? He closed all the banks in the United States. And I mean every bank in the United States was shut tight. From Friday, Saturday, Sunday. When we came back on Monday, there was no bank. There was no bank account. There was no balance. Nothing. Nobody had any solution for the problem. So it was a real terrible period. Most of my competitors doubled up and they quit. They went bankrupt and disappeared. My suppliers became scarcer and scarcer. And it was a real tough deal. All the cash was gone. Nobody had any money. Nobody had any way. They started to make promises, and that's all you could get out of a customer. So we were really in bad shape. So in the meantime, the same weekend, Mr. Roosevelt devaluated the dollar to try to save the economy. By devaluating the dollar, every dollar that you had in a bank or in your pocket was worth 60 cents less. $1 was worth 40 cents. But we had made commitments with the foreigners in Europe and elsewhere where we had bought cheese, olive oil, sardines, and everything else on a letter of trust basis, which meant that in 90 days we had to pay up. Whether we sold the merchandise or whether it got lost or whatever, we have to pay up on a fixed number, fixed figures of foreign currency, whether it was liras, whether it was francs or pesos, whatever it was. We had to buy those pesos and pay those bills. And some of them were quite large. Well, what do you think happened? We didn't have the money. So I said to my father, there's only one thing to do, is declare bankruptcy. My father said, no way. No Pastorelli ever went bankrupt. We're going to fight. I said, okay, Dad, I'll fight with you. And we fought, and we fought. So what happened? This was the week of the darkest day of my life. I went to a little coffee shop in the neighborhood half a block away. And I sat down and ordered a sandwich. I sat on a stool on the counter, and I couldn't touch it. Just didn't have it. I didn't have nothing left. I had no ambitions to eat, to drink, or to talk.
You almost were in despair. You were ready to give up, Uncle?
I was in bad despair. I did not seem to have a solution. So I sat there staring at this sandwich. The little owner was an old friend of my father. He was about 65 years old at the time, and here I am only 28, 29 years of age.
How old were you, say 28?
29.
29,
Started
all
when I
right.
was 28, so now I'm 29.
Okay.
Okay? So what happened? He said, why don't you eat your sandwich? He said, isn't it any good? I said, no, I don't. I just don't have any appetite. I lost all the appetite and all. My future's gone. He said, what are you talking about? You're still young. Here I am, 65 years of age, and I'm still in business. I said, well, you probably made differently there. He said, well, you must have a solution. So he says, what do you feel you should do? I said, well, what I feel I should do, I should make an investment of some kind which would eradicate the losses that we took in the last couple of weeks. So he said, what would that risk be? I said, I could buy, you see, the commodity markets, wheat had come down to 33 cents a bushel. 33 cents for a bushel of wheat, which is 60 pounds of wheat, which could be converted turned into flour and other things, feed or whatever. And that was as low as its price had been in the history of the Chicago Stock Exchange. Never had the prices reached at such low levels. So I figured that's the only solution that there is for our company, is to try to buy, make an investment, and see if somehow this market turns around and it'll make a few dollars that we can keep on paying our bills and stay in business. So he said, well, do it. I said, well, how could I do it? I've only got a half an hour. The stock market closes, the board of trade closes at 1 o'clock, and it's already 12:30. He says, you do it, you call anyway, you call anyway. So he kept on pushing me. So I went to the telephone and I searched for a nickel. In those days, the telephone was 5 cents. I searched for a nickel in my pocket and I couldn't find a nickel. And he rang the old-fashioned cash register with one finger and pumped out the nickel. He said, damn it, he said, hurry up. And he puts a nickel in the telephone. So I said, by God, this guy means business here. I got courage. So I called the Pillsbury company, and the manager, Mr. Burnell, was the manager. He was still in his office on a Saturday. I said, how you doing, Burnell? He says, lousy. How you doing? Lousier than lousy. So he said, what can I do for you? I said, would you buy some wheat on the open market today, on today's market? And if you get it, you convert it into flour for me? He said, why not? He says, I've been doing it for years. I keep on doing it. Why not? So I said, he said, how much wheat do you want? Get ready. 1 train load.
Oh, did I hear you right?
1 train load.
Oh, my heavens.
Body was shot. He says, did I hear you right? I said, yep. 1 train load. He said, oh, boy, is that an order or is that an order? He said, you know, this is the only order I got today.
You saved his
the only
day.
order I got this week.
Oh,
The whole week.
you bailed him out.
So I said, okay, call your company in Minneapolis, Pillsbury Company. But call me right back because we don't have much time. He said, don't worry about it, I'll call you back. So he called the company, and the company says, okay, only providing that Pastorelli's father will sign the note, the purchase note, the contract. So he came back and he said, will your dad sign the contract? I said, I hope so. I'll go over and ask him. He said, well, ask him now. I said, he's not here. I'm at the restaurant. So he said, well, hurry up, damn it. He said, we don't have much time. So I ran over to the office and said to Dad, would you sign a contract for a train load of wheat? He says, what? I said, not a car. I said, a train load. He said, oh, my God. He said, sure, I will. So that made me feel pretty damn good. Then he says, you know, he used to smoke a pipe with a long handle, and I saw the pipe travel from one side of his mouth to the other. And then finally he says, you made one mistake. He said, make 2 more. Call the other 2 suppliers. So I went I rushed to the telephone and said, Dad, I don't have enough time. You call one and I call one. So we bought some more wheat. We bought some more flour.
Really?
And we were coming out of our ears. What's the difference? You either go good or you go back.
Yeah, sink or swim, right,
That
Uncle?
was a big gamble, the gamble of our life.
Oh.
And all those orders were accepted. They were all confirmed. all the fine people that I dealt business, took the business without any money on a signature, my father's signature. He had a wonderful reputation. Everybody knew he was an honest man.
He was a man of honor.
He was a man of honor and integrity, and he had many years of experience. And everybody backed up his signature and delivered. In a week, the market went up 50 cents. Another week, it went up $1. Another week, it went up $1.50.
Yes.
They kept going up and up and up, and I was getting flour and I was getting wheat from everywhere in the country. And boy, was I happy. What turned out to be a very bad situation turned out for me and for my company the savior of our business. That was in 1932 when Mr. Roosevelt did us wrong. And I never forgot him, never forgave him for it.
Yes.
He damn near destroyed my business.
But you know, Uncle Andy, may I interject this? Providentially, that old friend that you met in the restaurant was there at the right time and at the right place, and he helped you through it. Great.
Everybody, all the large manufacturers, the Continental Baking Company, the A&P, had a bakery shop, everybody had needed large amounts of flour, and I had it. You didn't have to wait for delivery. I had it. And they paid my price, and I made plenty of it. So I recovered. Okay. Now, after I catch my breath, I'm going to tell you some more stories. You want to hear more?
Yes, I do, and I do want to do one thing. Just remove something that's in the sunshine so it will not fade, and make sure that I'm going to come in on this wonderful hat, which you're going to wear again for me. You have to put it, and you tilt the little visor down. Cornelia, you might want to see this and put it in the shade. This is what Uncle Andy, now you just continue on, and then if I tell you that I have to, we'll just, yes, you continue on. Would you like to stand in a different place in front of something pretty in the yard, or by your bird bath, or you prefer to sit, don't you?
I don't know if I can take it away.